The second case I want us to think about in terms of reward substitution is the case of a medication called Coumadin. So Coumadin is an anti-stroke medication. It's a relatively good anti-stroke medication. It reduces the chances of a second stroke from about 24% to about 4%. Now think about it. If you had a stroke, and this was how much this medication could reduce your second stroke, wouldn't you take it? And Coumadin, by the way, has a few side effects, particularly ones that have to do with eating and how you can eat leafy vegetables and some with bleeding, but generally it has low side effects. But, sadly, compliance is very low. It's the same problem. What's good for you now and what's good for you in the future. Okay, so we have this problem. People who had a stroke don't want to take Coumadin, or at least they behave as if they don't want to take Coumadin. And we can take this as an indication that they don't care about getting another stroke, or we can take it as an indication that something is wrong about the incentive structure and how they get discounted over time. So to get into reward substitution, we want two things. We want to be able to measure something, and we want to start rewarding or punishing it. So for the measurement perspective, there's a new technology out there, or maybe not so new, called internet-enabled pillboxes. These are pillboxes that every time you open them, it registers on the internet somewhere, and somebody can know that you've opened the pillbox. Now, right now, they don't yet measure if you've taken the pill or not, but we're going to assume that it's going to measure both, that you opened the pillbox and took the pill. So now we have this measurement approach. The question is, how can we reward it and how can we punish it? So think to yourself for a minute. You have this pillbox, people are on Coumadin, what can you do? So there's lots of things we could do. The easiest thing that probably comes to mind is paying people. We can pay people. Maybe we can charge them. Maybe we can tell their kids about it or their parents about it. Maybe we can tell the doctor about it and hope that the parents or the doctors would get them to feel guilty about it. Maybe we could create a competition between people who are doing it. Maybe we could do something more extreme. Maybe we can create a situation that unless you take your pill, you can't open the refrigerator. Or maybe we can take pills and cover them with chocolate, creating immediate incentives. But anyway, you could see that there's a whole range of things you could do the moment you understand that we need to add incentives to make that happen. So now I want to tell you about a few experiments we've done on this, and of course the potential range of experiment is just huge, and we haven't done many of them. So these are experiments that we have tried out, and George Lowenstein and Kevin Volp and some of their colleagues have tried as well. I'm going to kind of give you a combination of all of those experiments. So what do you think would happen if we gave people $3 a day to take their medication on time? Turns out, nothing much. What do you think would happen if we gave people $1,000 a day to take their medication on time? I think much like you, the prediction is that yes, people would take the medication on time for $1,000 a day. The problem is we don't have $1,000 a day. We only have a little bit of money. So the next task is to think about how we can take a small amount of money and make it look larger, what is called supersize the incentive, how we can take the same amount and make it look larger. So one of the things we tried is to use a principle called loss aversion. And loss aversion is the basic idea that people like gaining, but we hate losing. Gaining $3 is exciting, but losing $3 is really miserable. And the misery is much, much larger than the happiness. And because of that, if we get people to lose, it will be more effective. So for example, what do you think would happen if we prepaid people as if they took their medication for 3 months, and then we would take money away from them for every day they don't take the medication? Turns out that's more effective. You could come up with another idea. You could say, what if instead of giving people $3 a day, we would give them $100 if they took the medication for a while? Then the amount is larger, but remember also that the discount is higher. And future events need to be much, much larger to influence us today. So you want to bring something to today, right? Immediate reward. By the way, here is something I haven't tested, but I would love to try it out. You go to people who are taking Coumadin, and every morning you wake them up by showing them a picture of a particular kid in Africa who might get fed today if they take the medication on time. It's $3. And not only that money might go to that kid, they also know that that kid would get to see them in the evening and say goodnight to them, whether they've taken the medication or not, and I predicted under those conditions it will be incredibly hard for people not to give the money, because it would go to somebody else to fulfill a really important goal, and they will have to look into this person's eyes later in the evening and feel incredibly guilty if they haven't taken their medication. There's lots of ethical problems, if you can see, with all of this, but we'll continue. Now, here is some stuff that Kevin and George have done, which I think is incredibly inspiring. The first thing they did was they said, you know what, money is great, but people love lotteries. In fact, economists often call lotteries a taxation on stupidity, because the expected value is usually quite very, very low. But nevertheless, people love lotteries. That's why we have Vegas, that's what we have random reinforcements. So what do you think would happen if instead of giving people $3 in cash for sure, you gave them 10% chance of making $30? Turns out that's much more exciting. Right? In fact, the ideal way to create a lottery is to create a lottery with two things. You have one big reward that you can dream about but get very, very infrequently, but that fulfills the aspiration level. And then you have smaller rewards that have a higher probability of actually being given out. So from time to time, if you're in the system, you can get some reward, and it reminds you that you have a chance of getting the big one. If you only have the big one, then most days you don't get anything. It's not that exciting. So you want a combination of a really big reward and some small rewards that keep people in the game and feel excited. So lotteries are good, but they didn't stop there. They added another component called regret. And regret is a really interesting idea, and it's worthwhile stopping and thinking about it for a while. So what is regret? Regret is about the fact that our happiness with where we are in life is not about where we are. It's a comparison between where we are and where we think we could have been. And if this other place that we think we could have been is better than where we are, we feel terrible. And if this other place that we think we could have been is worse than where we are, we feel good about it. So here's an example. When do you think you would be more unhappy? If you missed your flight by 2 minutes or by 2 hours? Of course, by 2 minutes. But why? You're stuck at O'Hare with the same bad airport food, with the same unpleasant airport. Why are you more unhappy if you missed your flight by 2 minutes? Because you can imagine the many ways you would have made it. You could say to yourself, if the TSA agent had one more IQ point, everything would have gone well. This is the security people. You could say to yourself, if the person in front of me understood what taking your shoes off mean, everything would have been fine. There are many, many ways in which you can imagine how you would have been in this other reality. And then the contrast between these two realities is incredibly salient. If you missed your flight by 2 hours, there's no way for you to imagine that reality. So it's not creating the same contrast. By the way, as a personal observation, I should tell you that I think that one of the reasons that I think I'm generally happy in life is that because after sustaining a very serious injury, I have lots of reminders about that injury, and the contrast between where I am now and where I was for many years in hospital is incredibly clear to me. I think that if I had an injury that I had the same misery for a long time, but then it went away, I don't think I would have had the same benefit. So while these scars and some of the pain that they give me every day is have some unpleasantness, I think it is useful as a reminder of how things could have been. It makes it harder for me to forget this contrast between where I am now and where I was, and therefore I think I'm happier because of that. This is not a good experiment, of course, but just my intuition. In a very different domain, in some of the Olympics, they took pictures of people who won medals. And they asked the question of what determines the size of the smile. And you would think that the people with gold would smile the most, silver less, and bronze less. But when you actually look at it, it's gold, bronze, silver. The people with silver are the ones who are smiling the least. How could that be? Well, put yourself in the mindset of somebody who just won the silver medal. What are they thinking? What's going through their mind? They probably say to themselves, I was this close. In fact, there's probably not something that is this close like in the Olympics, right? It could be milliseconds. And what is the person with bronze thinking? They say, well, at least I'm here on this stage. Look at all the other people who didn't get here at all. So now you can see how in this case, but also probably in many areas of your own life, Happiness is not determined by where we are, but what reality we're comparing ourselves to. And if this reality is better, we feel miserable. If that reality is worse, we feel good about it. So let's take regret and roll it back to our experiment with Coumadin. Imagine that we have a big group of people taking Coumadin. And imagine part of these people are taking the medication on time, and another part of these people are not taking the medication on time. If we just do the rewards by lotteries to the people who've taken the medication on time, we take all the people who took the medication on time, we sample 10% of them, and we give them the lottery tickets. We call them up, we say congratulations, and we give them the lottery tickets. Now there's no regret. The people who are winning feel good, and the people who are not taking the medication don't really know that anything bad has happened. How do we add regret to the equation? We're doing it by giving a lottery ticket for everybody in the sample. We give it to the people who've taken the medication on time, and we're giving it to the people who did not take the medication on time. And if it's somebody who did not take the medication on time that comes up in the lottery, we call them up. And we say, congratulations, it's your lucky day, the stars are smiling on you, you're the winner of the coveted lottery. Sadly, you did not take your pill on time, so you're not getting the prize, you're not getting the reward. Now think about it, this is the essence of regret. Now you can say to yourself, my goodness, there was a tiny little act in the morning of taking the medication that if I would have engaged in that, I would have been on the other side of that fence. And I really don't want to be on that other side of the fence again. And now what happens? You combine lotteries and you combine regret, and compliance rate goes up to about 97-98%. Now here's the thing. When you look at something like Coumadin, you say many people just don't take the medication regularly on time. And it's terrible. It's a blood thinner. You should take your medication on time if you're on Coumadin. Luckily, we can add reward substitution. We can add $3, potentially could add shame. We can add all kinds of other things. And not only that, we can think about how to maximize that incentive. We can take, for example, $3 and think about how we supersize it. How do we add lotteries to it, randomness, how do we add counterfactual thinking and regret, and by doing so get people to behave as if they care about not getting another stroke, eventually getting people to behave in a way that is better for them, better for the families, and of course better for the healthcare system.